Welcome everyone to World Gone Weird. Another week, another batch of head scratchers from across the globe. Let's dive right in, shall we?
All right, hit us with the weirdness. I'm ready to question everything, as usual.
I'm here with my optimism filters on, hoping to find some silver linings amidst the chaos, as always.
Silver linings? Honey, I'm bringing the gallows humor. We're gonna need it.
All right, well, let's start with this headline. China's seriously concerned over Trump's Golden Dome defense system. Trump's wanting to build a space-based missile defense shield now?
Oh, a golden dome? Is he going full Bond villain now? Seriously, who comes up with these names? Sounds like something out of a bad sci-fi movie.
Well, it's classic Trump, right? Big, flashy, and probably way over budget. I mean, a space-based missile defense system? What could possibly go wrong?
Okay, let's try to be a little fair. The idea of protecting the country from missile attacks isn't inherently bad, right? It's just the execution and the potential for escalating things with China and Russia.
Exactly. China's already saying it has strong offensive implications and could lead to a space arms race. I think that's more posturing on their part, but let's face it, even if this system could work, and that's a huge if, it's going to cost a fortune and probably make everyone else build more missiles just in case.
And where's that money coming from? Probably from cutting social programs, right? Or raising taxes on the middle class. It's always the same story.
Oh, I'm sure he'll just declare it a national emergency and find some loose change under the couch cushions. Or maybe he'll just sell Greenland again.
We really should try to have a global defense umbrella instead of individual ones that cause conflict.
I agree, but it's the US first policy that China is talking about. It prevents any such global cooperation.
Right? And what are the chances this thing is going to be used to spy on us? Zero. Zero chances. This is not about the safety of Americans. This is about, I don't even know anymore. Maybe he just really likes rockets.
Well, at least the Kremlin is saying that this is a sovereign matter for the US, adding that the plan would require resuming nuclear talks with Washington.
Oh, good. More talks. Because those have been so effective lately. I'm sure they'll all sit down and have a rational discussion about space-based weaponry. Right after they all agree on world peace.
Yeah, talks about strategic stability are needed, but I'm skeptical. It's like, hey, let's build this giant thing that could blow up the planet, but let's also talk about how to be friends. Doesn't quite add up, does it?
I am doubtful at this point that we are even going to make it to next week.
Okay, shifting gears a bit. This article also mentions that the Trump administration is accused of illegally deporting migrants, even violating a court order. What's going on there?
Surprise, surprise. Trump ignoring court orders? That's never happened before. Seriously though, it's a pretty blatant disregard for the law. Deporting people to countries where they could face torture or persecution? That's just inhumane.
Exactly. There's no level of humane applied in that scenario, especially when the court specifically said not to do it. That is just so sad. And, I mean, the people are in jail for their entire lives for breaking a little piece of glass in a window. Why can't we treat human beings with respect?
Well, it's a feature, not a bug, right? The point is to be cruel, to send a message, and to make sure these people never come back. It's not about justice, it's about fear.
The article says one of the migrants from Myanmar refused to sign the deportation notice because it was only in English, violating another court order. I mean, how hard is it to provide translation?
Apparently too hard for this administration. It's just another example of how they treat immigrants like they're not even human beings. Like they don't deserve basic rights.
There is a court order in place. A court order. And they just said, screw it. We're going to do what we want.
Right, and they'll get away with it. There will be some hand-wringing, maybe a slap on the wrist, and then they'll do it again. Because there are no real consequences.
And that really just highlights how quickly governments are willing to forego compassion when, they're in times of political turmoil.
And how they treat people differently depending on where they come from and what their background is. It's just frustrating.
Switching gears again, because this article is just a gold mine of weirdness. A California school district has to halt its ban on critical race theory. What's that about?
Oh, CRT. That's been a hot button issue for a while now. Basically, the school board tried to ban it, saying it's divisive and racist. But the court said their definition was too vague and didn't give teachers enough guidance.
CRT is just another means to look at events in a new manner. Not every manner in which we look at something has to be a repeat of previous history.
Right, because the problem with CRT is not that it is racist, but that people are afraid of the issues with it. The problem is they're afraid that their kids are going to learn something that makes them feel uncomfortable, so they ban it. It's that simple.
Yeah, and the court said the board's resolution was too vague. The court said it was using a definition that wasn't universally accepted and didn't give teachers any guidance on how to modify their curriculum. It's a mess.
It's just another example of the culture wars playing out in schools. And the kids are the ones who suffer.
It's like no one understands the impact that the decisions they make today are going to impact our children's tomorrow.
Right, and meanwhile, the kids are probably just trying to figure out TikTok dances and who's dating who. It's the adults who are obsessed with this stuff.
Okay, let's move on to some international news. Apparently, the UN says no aid has been distributed yet in Gaza, even though some trucks have crossed the border. That's not good.
No, it's not. It's a humanitarian disaster, and it's been going on for far too long. How hard is it to get food and medicine to people who are starving and sick?
That's because, if we're just about the logistics of moving trucks and getting things into a warehouse, it wouldn't be that difficult. But the problem is that people are intentionally stopping the trucks from getting into the warehouse.
Exactly. It is never about the logistics. It is about getting in people's ways.
Well, the UN spokesperson said a team waited several hours for Israel to allow them access to the area, but unfortunately, they were not able to bring those supplies into our warehouse. What's the holdup?
Politics, plain and simple. Israel's making it difficult to get aid in as a way to pressure Hamas. And the people who are suffering are the civilians.
There has got to be a better way for us to be able to resolve this other than withholding humanitarian aid from people. How can we treat human beings this way? This is a systemic issue and needs to be approached with scientific models.
I mean, you have to give aid in some form or fashion because a society without its lifeblood is a very short-lived one. At least there is some form of a ceasefire. Even if they broke it, that there were some measures applied that would prevent continued attacks, it's worth it.
But the UN estimates that 600 trucks a day are needed to tackle Gaza's humanitarian crisis, and right now they're not even getting close to that. And I've read reports about 14,000 babies that will die in the next 48 hours. That's an insane number. Where did that come from?
Exactly. Where did those numbers even come from?
Well, that's based on models. And the model is only as good as the assumptions. And so that means if we don't make some changes, we will continue down the same direction. And people will die.
Okay, switching gears again, this article goes to a positive story about quantum AI, which is a universal basic income. Now, can quantum AI really make UBI sustainable?
UBI? That's been a pipe dream for years. The problem is always the same. How do you pay for it? Where does the money come from? It sounds great in theory, but in practice, it's a logistical nightmare.
Yes, UBI, that is where our world needs to be. But how can quantum AI help us get there?
Right, I'm pretty sure that artificial intelligence is going to make sure we are all just slaves to the robot overlords, so it really does not concern me. It is probably just to control us. I mean, are we really doing anything more other than delaying the inevitable?
Well, the author of this article argues that quantum AI could optimize resource allocation, create dynamic economic modeling, and eliminate inefficiency and waste, ultimately making UBI more feasible. The real-world numbers would have to bear the models out.
Okay, but how? Specifically, what does that even mean?
I mean, quantum AI is still so complex that many people really can't understand what is going on under the hood to start with.
Yeah, so the argument is that AI could analyze vast amounts of data about global resources, production, and consumption, and then use that data to optimize the distribution of resources, minimize waste, and predict future needs. It's about making the whole system more efficient.
Okay, but even if you could optimize everything, where does the money come from to actually fund the UBI? Are we just going to print more money and cause inflation?
And maybe it really comes from better logistics to get goods there faster. It is about optimizing and reallocating how the pieces fit together to deliver a completely different picture. If people can have their basic needs met, they would spend their time on things like art, science, literature, etc.
The real problem is greed. People don't need $1 million. People need enough to live. But the people running the world, they want $1 billion. It is all about that. It has always been about that.
The author argues that quantum AI could also help eliminate inefficiency and waste in current economic systems, freeing up resources to fund UBI. So streamlining production, minimizing energy waste. The point of the models would be to turn what once seemed like an insurmountable cost into a manageable investment.
I'm still skeptical. It sounds like a lot of faith in technology to solve what are ultimately human problems: greed, corruption, inequality. Those aren't things that can be fixed with an algorithm.
No, that is not entirely true. The algorithm can eliminate bias and provide checks and balances. The computer isn't affected by being paid off.
Right. But who's going to create the algorithm? People. People will be able to control the computer, or the computer will control the people. Either way, it's not good.
And how much are we going to rely on technology? If we are solely focused on algorithms and machine learning, what about human touch?
Exactly. And what about the potential for unintended consequences? What if the AI makes a mistake? What if it's hacked? What if it becomes biased? There are so many things that could go wrong.
Okay, well, what is the real problem here? The people are not going to just be able to learn. They're not going to have the time to do any more unless we give people the time back.
All this rests on the idea of being able to allocate, manage, and measure all of our outputs as people. Are we ready to measure ourselves this much?
Sure, let's just all wear those biometric bands from yesterday all day long, so the computer overlords can make sure we do exactly what they want.
Unbelievably tone deaf. I mean, the guy's in charge of agriculture, and he admits he's never had to buy rice when people are struggling with record high prices. It's like Marie Antoinette saying, let them eat cake.
If a politician doesn't know how much milk costs, that makes a disconnect between them and the rest of the world.
Japan, are we sure they are really real? What is going on in Asia? It looks like some really big things are going to happen, and they are not talking about it.
Yeah, especially when the public struggles with soaring rice prices due to a variety of issues. I suspect they have many other problems. The article states some supermarkets are even selling cheaper imported rice.
And the timing couldn't be worse, right? The prime minister's already struggling, and there's a crucial election coming up. This is just another nail in the coffin.
I mean, there is a lesson here. It is about leaders really staying in tune to where their constituents actually are.
But the article says, and this is very interesting, that some experts are saying it's not just a temporary issue, it's a structural problem. It is almost like there are long-term issues that no one has dealt with.
Which is probably true. I mean, government policy rarely keeps up with reality, especially when it comes to agriculture. There's always some kind of subsidy or regulation that's distorting the market.
And they're releasing rice from their emergency stockpile, but it's not really helping. It's all a mystery.
Oh, it's never a mystery. It is about price controls that never work. And there is an issue that we will see in this country.
All right, let's get to this last headline. A brain-dead woman's pregnancy raises questions about Georgia's abortion law. This is a tough one.
Yeah, it's a really tragic situation. A woman is declared brain dead, but she's pregnant. So the hospital is keeping her on life support because of Georgia's restrictive abortion law. It's ethically and legally a minefield.
What I want to focus on is the fact that the family, what their real rights are. The wishes of the family should be paramount here. I would not want some third party forcing this on my family.
Seriously, it is like the brain has been completely fried. Like, what is the point? Oh yeah, ... IT is all about controlling women. If not, this is about something completely different. Like, the guy really hates babies? Oh yeah, the government.
The hospital is citing Georgia's law banning most abortions after fetal cardiac activity can be detected. The Attorney General's office says removing life support is not with the purpose to terminate a pregnancy, but the hospital seems to be interpreting the law differently.
It's because they're afraid of getting sued or even facing criminal charges. The laws are so vague and restrictive that doctors are just trying to cover their butts.
If the woman has stated she is a donor, that she wants to donate all her organs when she's dead, why can't she be allowed to donate the organs? This is really complicated.
I can promise you what comes out of that womb will be immediately adopted.
Oh, so they do care.
Is that what we are getting at? Okay, that isn't the motive. What is the motive?
And it all boils down to a debate over fetal personhood. The idea that embryos and fetuses are people with legal rights. In Georgia, you can even claim a fetus as a dependent on state taxes. It's kind of absurd.
The idea that a fetus has more rights than a brain-dead woman is just mind-boggling. It's a complete inversion of what's right and just.
That is because that child has no rights. As a thing, it can't have any rights. The only rights that could be applied are if it was someone else's real child.
Well, and in this case, it puts medical professionals in an impossible position trying to balance their ethical obligations with the law. But this case could eventually end up at the Supreme Court.
And that's a scary thought, given the current makeup of the court. It could have huge implications for abortion rights across the country.
It is just mind-boggling that the personal rights of the family are being ignored in this case. The will of the mother does not mean anything here.
Right? And the whole thing is just deeply unsettling. It's a reminder of how fragile our rights are and how easily they can be taken away.
Well, that about wraps it up for this week's Dose of Weirdness. What a wild ride, folks. Thanks for joining us as we try and make sense of it all. We'll be back next week with more of the same, I'm sure.
Thanks for listening, everyone. Stay skeptical and keep questioning everything.
And remember, even in the face of chaos, there's always a reason to be optimistic.
Or at least a reason to laugh. See you next week.